Hey everybody, this is Ryan.
And this is Kyle.
And what you are listening to is...
The Doctor's Watcher, the Chill Out and Wait podcast about every episode of Doctor Who.
Indeed. Chilling out is one of the things I'm best at. Waiting, not so much. But, you know, sometimes you just gotta deal.
Yeah, totally.
So, how's it going, Kyle?
I'm doing pretty good. I have been playing this video game recently that I thought I would mention. It's actually a pretty new game. I think, you know, as we're recording it, I think it only came out like a month or so ago. And I'd seen a few people talking about it, and I was like, that sounds like fun. I'm sure I could, you know, spend a weekend or whatever on that. But turns out I can spend a lot more than a weekend on it.
Nice.
And yeah, it's called Roadcraft. And it's basically like a road construction, the game.
Okay.
Only
like laying down asphalt and crap like that?
Yeah. But you're doing it in like, essentially like in places that have recently been wrecked by like a natural disaster or something. Like a big hurricane or a flood or whatever. And you're coming through to sort of like try to restore the infrastructure and like get shit up and running again. So yeah, it's pretty good. I've been enjoying it. I'm
cool.
not too far into it yet. I'm only on like the third map, or the second, depending on how you look at it. Cause the first two are kind of like the before the storm and after the storm of the same location.
That's cool. That sounds pretty fun though. Like, yeah, satisfying and interesting.
Yeah, like it's pretty slow paced as a game because, you know, that's just kind of how the construction equipment works. But it's got like really nice graphics. You're working in like, you know, pretty beautiful areas. And, you know, a lot of the time you're just kind of like driving a dump truck around or whatever, or, you know, looking at your map and stuff. So like, I find it a pretty good game to be able to listen to podcasts to while I'm playing.
Awesome. Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I used to not really be a fan of kind of the comfy games or like the slow, more chill games, but yeah, I can get on board with that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, you know, especially after you've been like doing lame computer shit for your job all day, then it's kind of a good one to sort of just relax and do like some fun and chill computer shit.
Yeah, totally feel that. Cool. Well, I've been playing not really a new video game, but a new kind of expansion to an older game. Well, I guess to rewind a little bit, I was playing Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for a while, which is incredible and beautiful, good music, cool story, you know, very involving, I guess. But then I accidentally screwed up my save.
Oh shit.
Because, yeah, my gaming computer runs on Bazite Linux, and through no fault of Bazite, I was screwing around with settings and messing around with my grub and messing around with the updates that they had queued, and somehow I managed to bork my install. Which, again, no big deal, because I just loaded up Linux on a USB stick, booted to that, got all of my, you know, data off. One thing I forgot to do was get my Steam save game data backed up. So I reinstalled Bazite, re-downloaded all my games, And even still, that wouldn't have been an issue had I been more deliberative. But like I loaded up Clair Obscur again and my save games weren't there. And I was like, maybe like if I start a new game, it will like download my save back. It'll like check out because, you know, Steam save, like at least a lot of times Steam will save your save games.
Yeah,
online.
There's the Steam Cloud or whatever.
Right. So that was where I fucked up. I should not have started a new game because then that save got backed up to the cloud. Where if I would have gone to the cloud and downloaded my save, I could have just restored it and moved forward. So I did, again, totally my fault, but I obliterated my save, which was like 27 or 30-ish hours in. But then I realized, like, okay, well, that's my sign to stop wasting so much time on video games for a little bit, at least, and focus a little more on music. Mentioned a little about that last episode. Mm-hmm. But I did get into a game, or I got back into a game where it is a lot easier to just kind of like save wherever you're at and put it down and then, you know, resume. It's kind of easy to pop in and out of.
Nice.
And that is RimWorld. And I'm pretty sure you've played RimWorld, right?
A little bit, yeah. I haven't played it a whole lot, but, you know, probably a dozen hours or so.
Cool. Well, for listeners who haven't played or heard of it, it's heavily inspired by Dwarf Fortress. There's only one Z level, so you don't really go up or down, but you build your little base on pretty much the premise is you've got some astronauts, you know, usually about 3 or 4 astronauts, depending on the scenario, who have crash landed on some remote planet, and they have to kind of set up base and learn how to survive there. And again, depending on the scenario, this can change, but like the ultimate goal in general is to do study and research and advance your technology to the point where you could build a ship and, you know, leave the planet and theoretically fly back to either where you came from or where you were trying to go. I don't know. I forgot what they say about that part. Uh-huh. But the games I've been doing is the most recent expansion, which is called Anomaly, which basically brings like Lovecraftian style cosmic horror into the game. Like pretty much you start with on the map is a mysterious monolith. And, you know, of course, if you study said monolith, you figured out that it's a portal to another dimension with scary shit on the other side. And the more you study it, the wider the portal opens.
Nice.
My first run, you know, I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm going to like really focus on studying this thing. And, you know, at first it wasn't too bad. You know, there'd be like different types of eldritch creatures that would just sort of show up on the map and attack me. And a couple of them I captured and I was able to start studying them too. Which of course, you know, increases my efficiency of the portal study and like,
right.
Essentially opens this evil door even faster. But I wasn't slowing down. Hell no. So I kept studying and studying. And then like this pit in the ground opened up and monsters started coming out of that, but it still wasn't too bad. I could handle it. But then basically this evil darkness came across the land. Right. Like, well, so what had happened was I had chosen kind of a bad, not necessarily bad, but I had chosen a starting location that I wasn't prepared for. And so there was like a whole month of winter where I couldn't grow any crops. And like, I didn't have any parkas or warm hats for my guys. So they were like freezing and getting sick and starving. And I'd like hunted most of the wildlife out just to be able to eat. And then, it's like, you know, occasionally like if some other faction sets up near your faction on that, on this planet, it'll like tell you like, oh, your guys have detected, there's a hunting camp like not too far from where you're camped. And I was like, hunting, that means they'll have some meat. So I sent some guys on a little caravan over to kill them and take their meat, which I did. But, I was already so low on food. It's like before they even got there, it's like, well, your caravan is out of food and they're real hungry and they're going to be starving.
Right, sure.
So luckily they got there. I iced all the poor hunting camp people and I took their food and I was on the way back. But before I even got back, this evil darkness spread across the land. And the reason why it's evil darkness is because if you're wandering around in the darkness, unseen evil entities will attack you and harm you.
Oh, shit.
So, like, they got, my whatever, caravan guys, I think there's 2 or 3 guys in the caravan, got back to my area. And, they come in on the edge of the map and they have to kind of like trek back to your camp. Well, they did not quite make it. I think one of them, and like I couldn't do a damn thing about it. Like I didn't, around the camp, there's like, some electric lights and some campfires and stuff. And like they have little puddles of light basically that you're safe inside. But if you're in the darkness, like, and you don't have any light on you, then you're screwed. So like most of them died, but one of them finally was able to like crawl and drag himself into the camp. So I didn't get the damn meat that I had brought. Like the guys dropped it and died basically, except for this one guy. And finally he made it back, but ended up dying of his wounds. And even like there was a quest that popped up that's like, hey, if you protect this child, they will join your crew. And I was like, okay, good. I only have 2 people left on the crew. Mm-hmm. So I better take this quest. And, the way you pay for the quest is like, okay, well, you have to kill this dude that's like trying to kill the child. So the child and the dude show up on the map and the child is getting ripped to shreds in the darkness, trying to crawl their way to my freaking camp. And the guy that was attacking her didn't get hurt at all. He was just like, he would like occasionally stop and take pot shots at her. And then she would like crawl a bit more, getting attacked. And like, he's still at 100% health. I'm like, this is not fucking fair.
Yeah, seriously.
So, like the child eventually crawled, trail of blood into the camp, got her into a medical bed. She died of her wounds. The remaining 2 people that I had did kill that stalker type dude that was trying to attack the child, but they both got wounded and they went insane from all the gore and pain and tragedy that they just gone through. So pretty much like they're starving and then they're taking turns like spending time in a hospital bed. Whichever one wasn't in the bed would like care for the one that was until they snapped and would like wander aimlessly around the map. And then finally they'd come back to themselves, crawl their way back to the camp. They'd go into the hospital bed and then it was the other one's turn to like care for them a little bit and then snap and like wander around raving insane. It was quite the mess by the end. Needless to say, it spiraled out of control and everyone died. So I'm doing another run with that same monolith situation, but I'm studying it much more slowly. Like I've got a way better crop rotation set up. I chose a way better place to start. So, it's like growing season all year, no winter. Doesn't get too hot in the summer, but even if it does, I've got like some good electricity set up, with wind generators and stuff and batteries to like help keep them cool. And I've even got like a freezer to so the food doesn't go bad before it's cooked and yada yada. So hopefully this one at least lasts longer. And, I can like master this eldritch force or whatever before totally dying.
Nice.
So anyway, yeah, that's been fun.
Cool. Do you have a joke for us today?
Yes, it's a small bit of poetry, which I will be performing in an accent. There once was a young man from Sparta. He was an incredible farter. On the strength of one bean, he'd do God Save the Queen and Beethoven's Midnight Sonata.
Nice. It's a pretty impressive fart.
Right. Yeah. I think what he could do with like a mouthful of beans. Damn.
Seriously. Well, shall we find out what the Cybermen can do with a mouthful of beans?
Yes. Speaking of hot air, let's get into it.
Awesome. So this is, of course, the 4th episode of the Moonbase, which is the 26th episode of season 4.
And we're still in BBC animated territory, I assume?
Actually, no, this is an existing episode.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
Yeah, I couldn't find like any fun stories of why it exists or anything, but
just wasn't lost.
Yeah, as far as I can tell,
It's fun on its own.
But like episode 2, I actually found and watched a colorized version of it, which was pretty fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like official or fan made, as I think I also mentioned in episode 2, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Do you remember what our Cliff Dingler was in the previous episode?
Yeah, so they were struggling against Cybermen. They'd had some losses in which the Cybermen kind of were able to infect and mentally take over some of their the humans' compatriots, but they'd also had some wins where they very creatively problem-solved the Cybermen to death using solvents. At least I guess they died. It certainly like knocked them out for a bit when they dissolved all their plastics. But now they are facing an onslaught of quite a bit more Cybermen than they had previously had to deal with, who just showed up and are marching toward the moon base with some presumably pretty ominous battle drums on the soundtrack.
Yeah, totally. And the Cybermen army, I guess we could call it an army. It's like a dozen or so. But they're marching across the lunar surface, and back in the moon base, they start receiving a transmission from the Cyberman leader, who I guess is like still in the cyber ship. And the cyber leader tells them to open the entry port to the moon base, and it says that resistance is useless.
Oh, nice.
They try to call Earth on the radio, but the Cybermen are outside, like dismantling the antenna, so they can't get a signal out, basically. I guess they are still able to receive local transmissions, so like the cyber leader can still broadcast to them from the cyber ship. They just like can't talk to Earth with the antenna dismantled.
I suppose that makes sense. Like if they can pick up weaker or more local transmissions, but not, or sorry, they can pick up stronger or more local transmissions, but not something that would be that distant. Okay.
Of course, if they are not in communication with Earth, then that means that Earth will be sending up a relief rocket soon, or maybe it already has. I think Hobson and Benoit are like, yeah, like, dude in charge of the relief rockets is, kind of quick on the trigger sometimes, so chances are decently likely that it's already on its way. And, yeah, if not, then it will be soon.
Yeah, the more I think about that, the more it could turn out either way, really.
Yeah.
Good or bad.
Polly and Hobson are basically both just like, cool. The Cybermen can't get in because we blocked off their passageway that they opened previously. And, we're not obviously going to open the entry port for them like they keep asking us to. And the relief rocket is either on its way or coming soon. So all we have to do is chill out and wait.
Nice. Just like we're doing on this podcast.
Yeah, totally. The Doctor, of course, thinks that the Cybermen probably are aware of any possible relief rockets on the way and, probably have something planned. So we'll have to see what happens.
Indeed.
Sure enough, the Cybermen transmit a few messages back and forth with each other, and the cyber leader in the cyber ship says that they have detected a ship coming from Earth. It'll be landing on the lunar surface in about 15 minutes, and the Cyberman on the surface says that they need to find a new way into the Moonbase. And the Cyberman in the cyber ship says that they need to deal with the ship from Earth first. So one of the Cybermen activates a control device, and Dr. Evans sits up in the base's sick bay. Of course, Dr. Evans was one of the men with, like, the black vein markings and, under cyber control and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he sits up in sickbay on one of the beds. He's still got the black marks all over his face. And he goes and grabs, like, the Cyberman forehead device off of, a tray or whatever in sickbay, and he puts it back on his forehead. And then he kind of, like, sneaks up behind the sickbay attendant and knocks him out by clobbering him over the head with just some random sickbay object.
Oh, good thing he's in the sickbay.
Uh-huh. Back in the Moonbase control room, they are training Ben on one of the consoles.
How's he shaping?
Not bad for a beginner, I suppose, but it will take a long time yet.
They're pretty short-staffed at the moment, obviously, with a bunch of dudes in sickbay as, formerly cyber-controlled and whatever. So I guess they're, trying to get Ben up to speed to maybe help out a bit. Meanwhile, the person who's in the actual Gravitron control booth, Benson, has been in there alone, controlling it just himself for the past 6 hours, which, is pretty difficult and taxing. He's wearing the protective helmet, which I haven't really described, but it looks kind of cool. It's basically sort of a tall white kind of beehive haircut shaped helmet, but it's got like sort of little round indentations all over it.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's been doing this for like 6 hours, and Benoit is like, hey, Hobby, like, that's not really cool. Like, we should get someone else in there with him. But of course, with all the short staffing, there's not actually a whole lot they can do about it. Benoit's basically the only other person qualified and available, but, you know, they need him for all this other shit that needs to get done. So Hobby's just like, you know, what can I do, dude? Polly brings everyone some fresh coffee without sugar this time.
Probably for the best.
Uh-huh.
That's nice of her.
And Dr. Evans, who's, you know, still wearing the forehead control device, he's kind of like sneaking around, you know, keeping his face hidden from everyone and rolling pretty well on all of his sneak checks. And he slips into the control room and into the Gravitron control booth, and he clocks Benson, knocks him out, takes the helmet off, and puts it on his own head, and, you know, sits down at the Gravitron control desk and starts receiving a transmission from the Cybermen instructing him to
change field ordinance as instructed.
Uh-oh. Now, did he put this helmet on top of the thing that was already on his head?
Yeah, he's just wearing it over the control device.
Huh, okay. So they're, like, not incompatible, apparently.
Uh-huh.
Cool. Multiple head wearings for the win, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And of course, you know, out of the control booth back in the main control room, they can like see through the window into the booth, but they just see like a dude wearing the helmet. So, you know, they're seeing him from behind and like, what do they know?
Right. Okay, good. Marge Simpson looking helmet guy in there doing helmet stuff. Seems normal.
Yep, totally. They're, you know, not even paying that much attention to him anyway, because they're watching the radar screen as the relief ship from Earth approaches. It's in a parking orbit, so it's going to be landing like in the next few minutes, but then it seems to change direction on the scanner. And now, instead of a parking orbit, it's in an escape orbit heading toward the sun.
Uh-oh.
The rocket has been deflected towards the sun. Nothing can save them now
Save them? What are you talking about?
from plunging into the sun.
Dope.
Ben points out that the sun is like millions of miles away, but Benoit says that once they're in the sun's gravity belt, they can't change course. So, like, even if it's going to take them a week to get there, they're still just fucked.
Yeah. Well, having played Kerbal, I imagine it would probably be pretty dependent on their amount of, fuel and like what kind of thrust they can provide. And if they don't have, the juice to get out of that gravity well, then yeah, they'd just be screwed.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of delta V to get out of that. And a lot of the time, your best case is kind of just get them into an orbit around the sun and hope you can send a rescue ship later.
Right. Or just reload a save.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they seem to be playing at like Iron Man mode though, and they don't have a bunch of saves to reload.
Yeah. Which, interestingly, I'm also playing Rim World that way.
Nice. It's been a while since I've played XCOM, but I almost found it less stressful to play in Iron Man mode than to like be reloading all the time and like trying to totally optimize every turn and whatever. I'm just like, nope, if I did something dumb, I guess that's what happened.
Yeah, you just kind of have to deal with it, and of course you try to learn from it so you don't do the same dumb thing again. But yeah, like it's both less stressful in that sense and more like flavorful story-wise, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Are you struggling with the stresses of modern life? Here is an easy solution for all of your problems. First, relax. Then, open up your browser or your podcast listening device. Navigate to the Doctor's Watcher and begin leaving 5-star ratings. You will soon feel the stress begin to melt away. Once you begin sharing the podcast with friends and family, you will feel enveloped in a warm, calm, peaceful feeling. Relax.
So they start talking through like what happened to the rocket from Earth. Why did it get deflected or whatever? And the Doctor realizes that the only thing that could have caused the rocket to be deflected like this is a gravity weapon, like the Moonbase's Gravitron.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Hobby's like, are you saying that the Cybermen have a Gravitron? And he's like, no, dude, I'm saying you have a Gravitron right here. Like, that's what the Cybermen are after, clearly.
Right. Now they have one.
So yeah, they all, start actually paying attention to the Gravitron control booth, and they realize that it is Dr. Evans in there instead of Benson. So the Doctor basically sends Ben and Jamie back to check up on sickbay, where all the other previously Cybermen-controlled men are, and basically to just like barricade sickbay closed for now.
Okay.
We cut to sickbay where a few men sit up on their sick beds and go put the cyber control devices onto their foreheads. Ben and Jamie show up outside sickbay, and they start getting, sort of this long hallway table that they're going to use to barricade the door with, when the door opens and one of these men start coming out. So they quickly pivot to using this table as a battering ram, and they knock the dude back into sickbay and then get the door shut and locked.
Awesome. Pretty good. Improvisation there.
They go to start collecting chairs to try to help with the barricade, while the men inside sickbay start using a long strip of metal basically as a crowbar to try to pry the doors open. Meanwhile, Hobby gets on his intercom to talk to Dr. Evans in the Gravitron control booth. He, is trying to talk him out of fucking shit up for the Cybermen and remembering his own identity and whatever. But Dr. Evans is not listening, and the shit that he's doing with the Gravitron, the way he's manipulating it, is basically going to end up flooding half of Europe if they don't stop him. So they start getting ready to just rush him physically, basically. And before they can do this, they get another transmission from the Cyberman in the cyber ship, who reveals that the Cybermen have been listening to everything that's happened for the past half hour or whatever. And so they know everything, and the humans need to either open the door or the base will be destroyed and they will all be eliminated. Hobby's basically if you've heard everything, then you'll hear me now saying, fuck you and your cyber asses, we're not going to open the fucking door and let you in.
Nice. Go hobby.
Yeah, totally. The Cyberman says that they're actually in already, and then there's a loud bang, and all of the air starts rushing out of the room.
The oxygen mask! Quick, everyone, take a mask over there!
Shite.
Turns out that the Cybermen have punctured the observation dome, and seems like they probably used a laser weapon to do this. Hobson takes off his lab coat and just kind of like shoves it into the hole in the dome. And this actually works and like stops the crisis like for a moment. But then his coat gets sucked out and flies across the lunar surface. Hobson and Benoit look around and they see the coffee tray that Polly brought coffee in on earlier. And so they basically just like grab the coffee tray and like slap it up onto the hole in the observation dome. And this works, apparently.
Nice.
Yeah, I will take a moment to say that misunderstanding how the vacuum of space works is possibly one of my biggest pet peeves in science fiction. And like just about every popular sci-fi show or movie does it at some point or other, including right here and now in this episode. And yeah, I could go on like a whole big rant about it, but that would just kind of be the rest of our podcast. So
well, like how would you encapsulate your argument?
Mostly just that a lot of shows seem to think that the vacuum of space is itself like a sucking force that will like, you know, suck everything out of the room and whatever. But what actually happens to like, you know, make it seem like things are getting sucked out is just like the air, you know, leaving the room and dispersing into the vacuum, and like the wind from that, you know, might blow something to the hole, or, you know, if there's just like a little hole in the dome, then like the air's gonna like spray out, but you know, it's not gonna like suck everyone out through it or whatever.
Right.
If like
Star Trek is really bad with that.
Yeah, totally. You know, if like the whole window is blown out or something, then like, you know, the air from the room is going to leave all in one big go, and that's probably going to take a lot of shit with it. But then it's just going to be vacuum, and there's no more like sucking or anything, like, you know.
Right. I guess technically there never was any sucking. It was all blowing. The pressure in the room blowing. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that I have not seen The Expanse, and I've only read the first book of it, but I think probably they would get it right.
Yeah, no, they absolutely did. In fact, this scene in Doctor Who really reminds me of a scene in The Expanse where like one of their walls gets punctured. I think it was like a ship to ship bullet type thing that like shot straight through. And, I think like basically the way they solved it in like this little room where the action is happening was they got like an instruction manual, you know, that was in like this binder thing, and they like slapped the binder against the hole and like put like really good glue around the edges of it to like seal it. And like that's how they plugged one of the holes basically. I thought that was clever and very similar to what they're doing here on Doctor Who.
That makes sense. And that would work. And yeah, I think if Hobby and Benoit had like glued the coffee tray to the hole, then like that would be fine.
Yeah, problem solved.
But yeah, they're relying on like the sucking pressure of the vacuum of space to hold it to the hole, basically.
Well, good thing fiction space works that way.
Totally. So now that the hole is patched, the reserve oxygen tanks refill the Moonbase with air, and like everyone's fine. Polly and the doctor notice how quiet it is now, and they look in the control booth and they see that Dr. Evans is unconscious, and like the Gravitron is just not being operated at the moment. That's why it's so quiet. So Ben and Jamie rush into the booth and they gather up Dr. Evans and like start taking him away.
What do we do with him, Doctor? That's your problem. Just make sure he doesn't come back here for a while. Blimey, I'll be after a job as a copper when I get back to 1966.
So yeah, I guess they take him presumably off to sickbay, but they were talking about like how barricaded sickbay is now, so who knows. The doctor just kind of like grabs the forehead control device off of Evans and pockets it.
Nice.
Up in the observation dome, the doctor goes and tells Hobson that he has an idea, but before he can explain what his idea is, they watch as a couple more flying saucers land on the lunar surface. Of course, these are like probably, 3 or 4 inch models of flying saucers that are like being lowered on wires to the model of the lunar surface.
Awesome. Always appreciate some physical movie effects.
Yeah, totally. So the flying saucers land, and the Moonbase receives another transmission from the cyber leader, who says that they've brought reinforcements with other weapons, and that the Moonbase must open the entry port. About half a dozen or so Cybermen are out on the lunar surface now. They are unpacking and assembling this big weapon from several trunks that they've unloaded out onto the surface. And they put it together and they aim it at the base. And Hobson's everybody get down and shit. The doctor's like, is the Gravitron still turned on? And Hobby's like, yeah. And the doctor's like, then nah, I'm good here. I don't need to get down or whatever. And the Cybermen fire the weapon, and this big laser beam zaps toward the base and then glances away as if it bounced off of something.
Oh. So now gravity is affecting light? That must be incredibly strong, probably. Interesting.
Yeah. They fire it again, and the same thing happens. It just glances off, and the Cybermen all just kind of shrug or whatever and start disassembling the weapon.
I wish we had an astrophysicist so we could be like, dude, okay, if there's a gravitron strong enough to bend the light of a laser, what are the implications for literally everything else around that zone?
Yeah, totally. Because, they confirm in the dialogue that the gravitron was apparently acting as a force field for the Moonbase.
Cool.
So, yeah, cool. Hobby wonders, what the Cybermen will try next, and turns out the answer to that question is that about a dozen or so Cybermen just start marching across the lunar surface toward the Moonbase, which I guess was kind of our cliff dangler from the previous episode that they never really dealt with, but it's happening again or continuing to happen.
Right. Damn it, again.
The Doctor is like, hey, remember in the previous episode when I was asking you about like how far down we can aim the Gravitron? I'm asking you that again. Can we aim it at the lunar surface itself? And Benoit is like, dude, that's a great idea. So he rushes to the Gravitron control booth, puts on the helmet, and, starts pointing the Gravitron down, but he can't point it down far enough, basically. He points it down as far as it'll go, but it's still, like, way over the Cybermen's heads.
Down.
The Doctor is like, I guess we'll have to try manually. So he and Hobby go into like the actual Gravitron room itself and start just like physically trying to move it and get it pointed farther down, but they can't really budge it. And then Hobby's like, oh shit, I just remembered that there's like a safety device, basically. There's like a physical cutout that's like preventing it from moving farther. So.
Oh, now there's safety rails. Oh, good.
Yeah, there's safety rails to protect the Moonbase, just not the Earth.
Right.
So he goes and just like removes the safety device, and then he and the Doctor like don't even have to do it physically. Like once the safety device is gone, then like Benoit is able to do it just from the control booth. So he points the Gravitron like all the way down at the Cybermen, and we cut to like 2 or 3 of the Cyberman extras who just kind of like slowly float up off of the surface and away from the moon.
Awesome.
And like we see the flying saucers just kind of like float up and away, and yeah, everyone in the Moonbase cheers.
Yay.
Hobby starts issuing orders about like rebuilding the antenna so they can get back into contact with Earth, and getting Earth's weather back under control so they don't flood half of Europe, and like, all that sort of shit. He turns to say something to the Doctor, but the Doctor and Ben and Jamie and Polly are all gone, and the door out of the control room is like closing. Hobby's basically just like, oh well, whatever.
We got enough madmen here already.
The Doctor and the other PCs are in their spacesuits again, like with the bubble helmets and everything. They are walking across the surface of the moon back towards the TARDIS when they see sort of a comet-looking thing in the sky.
Could that be them? Possibly. And I hope it's the last we see of them.
That's not foreboding at all.
Oh, so they get back to the TARDIS. It leaves. And then later, in the TARDIS control room, as they're in flight, the Doctor decides to turn on the time scanner.
The what? The time scanner. Instead of the normal picture showing where we are, it gives you a glimpse of the future. The second sight. Very dangerous.
The Doctor says it's not very reliable, though, but he turns it on anyway, and Polly starts getting scared because the time scanner shows an image of a giant crab claw waving around.
Nice.
And with that, the words say Doctor Who Patrick Troughton.
Nice. Is that a cliff dangler? I mean, you know, we all know that the ultimate of evolution is the form of a crab, basically.
Yeah, totally.
Huh. Well, that's cool. I mean, a little bit anticlimactic, maybe, like they just floated away. And also, I'm curious how they were able to, you know, turn into or look like a comet when there is no atmosphere on the moon.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I was thinking too. Like you might expect if they were traveling through an atmosphere that there would be some light and, you know, it could look comet-like. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's confusing. Like how do you get a comet tail if there's nothing, like no force to create that?
Maybe it was just like actually a comet, but the doctor just didn't feel like explaining to Polly.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? I'm not gonna explain this.
Sure, yeah, maybe that's the Cybermen. Sure.
But yeah, no, that's cool. That was a pretty good little series with the Cybermen, Proto Borg, basically almost.
Yeah,
even the more I think about it, like even the Borg would do the black veins kind of infection looking thing as they were like converting people to their status or whatever.
I kind of meant to do some research and see if I could like, you know, officially verify that the Borg are, you know, quote, inspired by the Cybermen, but then I didn't do that research, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it does seem pretty clear. Like resistance is useless. You know,
like they've said that multiple times. So
yeah. Well, I guess the Cybermen don't really have hive mind, right? They're still, they take orders and stuff, but they're not like all networked, you know, kind of constantly.
Yeah, they are more like individuals that are under control than an actual hive mind.
Right. But yeah, very, very conceptually close. But yeah, that was a good one. There's a lot of kind of, I don't know if you'd call it like Deus Ex Machina or Deus Ex Stupidity, with like Jamie bonking his head and then not being good enough to become a Cyberman. Which is pretty funny. I still think it would have been nice to have some kind of, you know, reference to the Piper, you know, at the end somehow.
Yeah.
Sounds like they never quite cashed that in.
Yeah, not really. That seems to be something that they kind of do a lot of these days, or in these episodes. Like, they kind of make some reference or some comment and you're like, oh, I wonder how they're going to follow up on that. And then they just kind of don't.
Right. Or like again, Monty Python-esque Cybermen, you know, squad march toward their base, and then it never really happened. And then they look again and it's like, oh, they're still out there. They're still like coming.
Yeah. And yeah, like the ending of the Cybermen just kind of like drifting off from the lunar surface is definitely like pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, right. Although it does sound pretty funny, and like I picture it with like a, you know, theremin sound, like ooh, something like that. Well, cool. So would you? I'm assuming that this is the last installation in this serial.
Yeah. This is the end of the Moonbase.
And would you recommend the Moonbase as one to watch?
I think I would. It was pretty fun. You know, there is the whole misunderstanding of vacuum of space, but like I said, that's, in pretty much every sci-fi. So, the new Cyberman design is definitely an improvement on the original design from a few serials ago.
Yeah, that's cool.
I do think they look and sound cooler. It is pretty funny that the original design only got like one serial before the BBC's like, we can do better than that.
Yeah, right. But hey, they did do better, so cool.
Yeah, they definitely did do better. I did think it was a bit funny that they even bothered at all, given that this seems to be the last time that the Cybermen ever show up in Doctor Who.
Right, I mean, he took care of them once and for all. Floating them off into space to become cyber comets, so, I can't imagine they'd be back.
I guess it's just occurring to me that this is kind of following up on the previous episode when the Doctor has the whole conversation with himself and decides that, like, the Cybermen don't like gravity or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with the gravity gun that strong, you could probably say that it's almost any entity's weakness, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I think probably that is not just limited to Cybermen.
Right. But that sure worked out in this case, I guess.
But yeah, so it was a fun serial. I think it is definitely worth checking out to have a good time, especially since only 2 of the episodes are missing, and there are pretty decent animations for those 2, so...
Yeah, that's cool. And, if you're lucky or diligent, you might even come across a colorized version, of the original black and white. So that's pretty sweet too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, kind of a little bit of a foretaste of what might be to come in several podcast years from now.
Awesome. We will finally make it, out of Dorothy's little wood house and into the land of color video. Well, cool. Yeah, I enjoyed this one too. Cybermen are fun. I think at this point, considering the 2 thus far in the series, the overall Doctor Who universe, pardon me, I would say I am partial to Daleks as a villain, but Cybermen definitely are up there, and I know that they've got a lot more to grow on you, a lot more chances and twisted machinations and such in the future. How do I know that? I have a time scanner as well. But yeah, Cybermen are cool. I like them too.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, cool. So I can't wait to rejoin you in 2 weeks for a presumable Crab People episode. They're probably doing that thing that those one crabs do where they, wave their pincher around to try to scare off each other and assert dominance.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think there was stars and shit in the background, so giant space crabs maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Giant space crabs. I am 100% on board with that.
Nice.
Cool. Well, any further notes about this episode or the Moonbase serial?
Nope, not this time.
All right. Well, thanks, Kyle, for taking us through this adventure with the cyber folk. Some of them are probably ladies. So.
And thanks, Ryan, for listening to what happened when the cyber folk invaded the Moonbase when we thought we were going to Mars.
Right. Bit of a sidetrack there, but hey, it worked out in the end. All right, cool. Well, I'll be expecting some crab-related storylines in 2 weeks.
You must come back in 2 weeks. Resistance is useless.
Yes, indeed. And if you have any sonic methods of control, please transmit those over email and or Blue Sky. Blue Sky would probably be the most ideal because then other people might encounter it and they would also be under your control.
Indeed. We will spread our cyber control through the universe.
Indeed. All right, cool. Well, then I will see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Bye.
All right, bye.
They've got our wavelengths. We hear you.
You are surrounded. All resistance is useless. You must open the entry port.
Emmy, you're wasting your time. We've discovered your passageway and blocked it. You cannot enter now.
Resistance is useless.
Can they get in?
I don't know, and I'm not stopping to find out.